Now you have you have Captain Olwenyo Jungu. Captain Olwenyo Jungu comes from Dokolo. He was a commanding officer, and he was killed on the 10th of April 1979. When he captured Kampala, he was one of the frontliners. When he captured Kampala, he was immediately killed on the 10th. So on the 11th, he was not there to see the announcement and the liberation as a whole. There was Captain Oyile. Captain Oyile was a commanding officer of the first attempt in 1972. And Captain Oyile was killed on September 1972. He was picked from Barara and then brought to Kampala and killed. His pictures are here. Then you have Captain Walter David Agona, a flight engineer, the one I showed you. He was killed in 1971. You have Captain Atiang Dege. Atiang Dege was from Aloy, Aleptong, killed in 1972. You have Captain Erashenia Amore Obashe. Obashe, a military officer. He's from Ibuje, Apache. Actually, the family of Erashenia Amore invited me yesterday. This is the invitation for the commemoration of his years when he passed on. They invited me yesterday for that celebration. Unfortunately, I didn't turn up because I knew I had some mission today to remember the same person. So the family organized a celebration yesterday in Ibuje. I don't know whether you got to know. So it's this one. This is Captain Erashania Amore Obache. And then you had Major Oluol. The invite, okay, I will give you. He's still capturing. Then you had Obwal Lugino. Obwal Lugino was a former bank manager of UCB. But for your information, he's the brother to the current MP of Otukwe, Honorable Paul Omara. He was killed in 1972. Then you had Eliphas Akena, Assistant Commissioner of Police. He was now destined to become the Inspector General of Police, but he was killed. He's from Eboja in 1972. You have Lieutenant Colonel Obot, who was also killed in 1979, I think, and many others.
Obot was killed later.
Much later, okay. There was Abdallah Nyoro, who was killed during the years. I mean, there was Field Marshal Gideon Okello. You know, he's a Field Marshal, leader of Zanzibar Revolution. He comes from Amogo or Abaho in Aleptong, Aloy. But he was killed in 1972 by Amin. You had Honorable Bene Moore. I'm told one of the daughters or somebody very close who works in radio Voice of Now is related to Benny Moore. Yeah. Benny Moore is their father. He was a legislator of the East African community at the time. He comes from Boroboro Lira. He was killed in 1979. You had Muzei CPO Chen. He was general manager of Aboge Jinare, killed in Aboge, 1972. And you have so many people. Benjamin Odur was the first manager Uganda Spinning Mills, Akogora Patch, 1973. Ima Tabista Etit. Tabista Etit is from Loro Uyam. Was killed in 1977. She is the mother of Lieutenant Colonel Odwe Opiro, whom you know. She was picked from home and killed by Amin's people. You have Jacob Apenyo for Omoro Aleptong. You have Marebek Aguingira Molata. Jojo Moro, Papo Pio Moro, the father of Pio Moro. Prominent businessman in town, picked in 1977 and killed. So we just sampled this for you also to have it. But I can also show you that I have now documented over 100 names. Unfortunately, this is the list. Unfortunately, we are still carrying on with the documentation. In the celebration day, we shall give you the details because we are trying to have the names and all the details, the clan, the date, and so on. So we have about 100 now, but we are continuing to do it. Gentlemen, good afternoon. In my watch, it is 25 minutes past midday. This 11th day of April 2023. I'm here seated in the center of Lira City, in one of the most conducive environs, at a place called Valley Resort Hotel, Lira. I am pleased and honored to share with you my happiness and joy this day of the Liberation Day in the history of our country, Uganda. But before that, let me introduce myself. I'm called Ishaa Otto Amiza. I'm the former member of parliament for Oyam County South. I'm a leader in the Uganda People's Congress Party, and I am a civil political activist, but above all, a Lango by tribe and a Ugandan by nationality. Seated next to me is my colleague and comrade. I call him Kikosi Malum, but he can introduce himself briefly.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moses Mawa. I am an activist in this town here. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses, and thank you, everyone. I use this opportunity to welcome the members of the press in the Lango region and beyond. And I thank everyone who has come up to respond to this invite for the press conference. As I earlier said, today is Tuesday, 11th April 2023. We, as activists and citizens of Uganda, today have considered to remember a day which appeared to be forgotten in the history of our country. And we are considering this as a dedication day to all the political activists, to all the political leaders, to all the citizens of Uganda, the friends and the neighboring countries, particularly Tanzania, and all the fighters of Ugandan exiles who assembled themselves in Tanzania, mobilized themselves in Tanzania to come back to Uganda on the 11th of April 1979. And from then, we baptized them as the Ugandan Liberators or Liberation Fighters, who came together as a front and a force under the United Uganda National Liberation Front. It is indeed one of the remarkable historical record and moment in our history where Ugandans of all diversities, religion, tribe, social classes, and so on, combine themselves together, join hands to fight to remove the dictatorship of Idi Amin Dada, which had lasted for 9 years. And under one umbrella military front called the Kikosi Malum, which was then commanded by Major General David Oyite Ojok, who is a Lango by birth, and General Tito Okello Lutua, who was and still remains an Acholi by tribe, but they were the commanders of the Kikosi Malum, together with the other auxiliary forces. I may not wish to forget that there was also FRONASA, Front for National Salvation, led by none other than General Yoweri Museveni at the time, and of course other fighting forces which were not easily notified. But they joined hands with the Tanzanian Defense Forces. They lodged a serious protracted war against the dictatorship of Idi Amin, and they overthrew him on the 11th of April 1979. This was announced in Radio Uganda. I will play for you the announcement by Major General David Oyite Ojok when I will be concluding reading this statement. So the theme of today's celebration. We are in a celebrous mood. We are very happy. We are excited. We are overjoyed. We are actually feeling the happiness and the joy with which our own gallant children mobilize themselves to liberate the people of Uganda from one of the worst and the most notorious dictatorship that Uganda has ever had in our history. So the theme of today is time to remember and rewrite our history. We think that our history has been long and there have been so many things which has happened, but nobody has taken it seriously to remember. We think we should now remember and rewrite our history. So I'm going to read something here verbatim, just for the media to record. It is known that since 11th April 1979, some 44 years ago, the combined forces of Ugandan exiles, who call themselves Liberators of UNLF, joined hands with the Tanzanian armed forces to overthrow the notorious dictatorship of General Idi Amin while they were in Tanzania. This liberation took a lot of sacrifice of our very own people. Unfortunately, since then, little has been done to recognize, remember, and accord them what they deserve for their participation and support, and indeed sacrifice in terms of life in the liberation struggle against Amin. In equal measure, well over 500,000 innocent civilians who were back home in Uganda were murdered in cold blood for the 9 years that Amin's government reigned. Nonetheless, today, Tuesday 11th April 2023, it marks 44 years since that liberation took place. Therefore, we concerned citizens and activists would wish to launch the documentation and the annual commemoration, yearly commemoration of those citizens of Uganda whom we call them heroes, beginning from citizens who hail from Lango, who sacrificed their lives, their families, and time to champion the 1979 Liberation War under the Kikosi Maalum and other fighting forces. Whereas we recognize that the 8 years liberation struggle against the dictatorship of Idi Amin was a national struggle that brought together all well-meaning Ugandans under UNLF with the support from friends from Tanzania and across the world, but particularly with support from the Tanzanian government of President Julius Kambarage Nyerere. We particularly recognize and pay special tribute to the Kikosi Maalum fighting forces led by Major General David Oyite Ojok. And we say, may his soul and the souls of all those people whom he commanded and liberated us rest in eternal peace. And indeed, we cannot forget that we'll also, with the aid of General Tito Okello Lutwa, who were all under guidance of a political leadership of Dr. Apollo Milton Obote. That should be known, because Maalum had a political backing and a leadership of Obote. And indeed, we also recognize in a special way the minority forces, particularly from Ishaa, which was led by Yoweri Museveni. We do not underrate his contributions at the time, because we think this struggle was for all Ugandans, non-partisan, non-ideological, but it was purely a liberation of the people of Uganda. We also recognize that many Lao tribesmates sacrificed their lives or became targeted victims of Amin's dictatorship. For Amin believed that Lao and Acholi were die-hard supporters or they were related by blood to Dr. Apollo Milton Obote and the UPC government, which he overthrew. Amin targeted Lao particularly and actually, where he rounded, when he overthrew the government immediately in 1971, he rounded the Langi soldiers, plus some actually, in all the military barracks, assembled them on grounds, and they were shot, or clobbered, or chopped with the pangas to death. Hundreds and hundreds of Langi and Acholi soldiers were killed mercilessly. They were never tried before any competent court. Their victimization was that they were serving UPC Obote's government and they were Langi by tribe. And that was really a crime where they all perished. Therefore, in the history of Lango and Uganda, nearly every family, and I want us to record back to our families and get our history correct, nearly every single family or a clan in Lao, now I'm told we have about 150 clans. Out of these clans, at least you have one or two persons who were killed or were arrested, disappeared, and they were never seen up to today by the Amin's government. As I speak here, my uncle, the late Bob Odongo Nahenda, also died in those circumstances. My own father, who was a headmaster at the time, was survived by 2 minutes when Amin soldiers went to the school, Icheme girls now, and they asked for the headmaster, but the headmaster had gone somewhere, and when he saw the vehicles, he decided to escape behind the building and he ran away. That is how he survived, by 2 minutes. Because it was a simple theory. Once the Special Research Bureau comes, they would ask for you, they pick you, that would be the end of you. So we are all victims, as individuals, as families, and as clans. In my own clan, we lost about 5 people. And I know in all your clans, you lost many people. You lost your parents, you lost your uncles, you lost your brothers and sisters under the dictatorship of Idi Amin. It is therefore unethical and very, very irresponsible of Lango, and indeed any government that succeeded Amin, to ignore and forget about the souls that sacrifice themselves for the common good of this country during the most difficult time that Uganda went through. It is totally unethical. It is totally unacceptable. It is really very painful to the souls that were killed because of fighting Amin. We thought that the legacies that those people who fought Amin should not die, but should live beyond. And their legacy should be carried forward in memory of their sacrifices and selflessness to make Uganda a better country for all. In the same vein, we implore and pursue and request government today and coming governments of Uganda to recognize the importance of this day and to declare this day a national day where we should be having a special celebration or a special holiday. Just like we remember independence, just like, by the way, we also remember 26 of the Luero Bush War people. Can you imagine? We also remember that, but we cannot remember the 11th April 1979. This we are call upon government of Uganda today and the subsequent government coming to declare this day a national day. We are grateful that the current government recognized the killing of Archbishop Janane Luhum, who was killed by Amin. But we think that that is not enough to just honor one person when our uncles, fathers, parents, relatives, and what were also killed Why couldn't we make it a national day so that we would be celebrating this day today? Finally, we have categorized these heroes in 3 groups. One, in our documentation, which I shall display some to you in a minute, we have uniformed women and men who were killed or participated in the Liberation War between 1972 to 1979. Remember, the first attempt to fight the dictatorship of Idi Amin was done in 1972. That was repulsed by Amin's government, and hundreds of people were killed. Some of their names are on my list. I will give you. So the struggle continued up to 1979. It was a 8 years struggle to remove Amin. 2, we have activists, politicians who supported or mobilized fellow Ugandans and friends to Uganda towards the liberation struggle. They were not uniformed, they were not military men and women, but they were political activists, they were civil activists, they were human rights activists. They mobilized and supported the liberation struggle to ensure that Uganda got the liberation from Amin's dictatorship. 3, we got innocent citizens or civilians in civil service. You remember the chairman of public service then, Abdallah Anyoro, may he so rest in peace, was killed in Kampala with others at the clock tower. If you are moving towards Entebbe, you know where the clock tower is. They were paraded there, tied there, and they were shot in public in broad daylight. So several civil servants were killed. There were business people. In Lira here, we had Opol and Sons, who was killed. We had Omar Beck, who was killed. We had Eliak Clemente, who was a businessman, who was killed. The father to late Eliak and the father to this other Beja businessman. These were business people who were killed in the circumstances. There were farmers. Several prominent farmers, whom I have their names, were killed. Academia, a number of Makerere professionals from Makerere, academicians from Makerere and other universities were killed. The father to Honorable Beatrice Lagada was a principal or a headmaster of Kidgum Technical College. He was picked and killed. He was an academician. Religious and traditional leaders. Here we had Ben Utim, who was Nyasi of Lao. And you remember he was killed. You also remember Yekosafa Rengor, who was also Nyasi of Lao at some point. He was also killed. So it didn't matter whether you were in religion or your tradition, but you were killed. And several others, those who are in the politics, many of them now were just rounded and killed. Those who are in the military, in the police and so on, were rounded and killed by dictatorship of Idi Amin within the 9 years. Finally, in today's launch of our celebration, we have sampled some few names of those categories to read it public to Uganda to know, as a way to reawaken our people of Lango and Uganda, and to make a sound call to have this day remembered forever. After this address, for us, we shall go and take our bottles of beer. We shall also go and eat some food. We shall also dance a little in celebrating the lives and the sacrifices of our people. Because we are celebrating their commitment, we are celebrating their sacrifice. This should be known. We are not going to let them die and just go. And we are going to begin from here until Uganda accepts that today must be remembered in our history. And the launch of this struggle begins today in Lira City. And we request the public also to reach out to us, especially those who know their relatives who were killed, when they were killed, how they were killed, because we are doing a documentary of all these events so that they don't just die, they must be remembered. So we call upon the members of the public, the members of the press, for any information that you have to share with us so that it is gathered for purpose of remembrance and for our records and for our archives and also for the good of our children. Today's children do not know what happened, and they think everything is normal. But you guys, this thing was not normal at all. It was such a terrible thing. You are picked from your house and you are taken away and you are never seen back again. And how many people died? Over 1 million people, innocent civilians. I therefore ask you to join hands with us in celebrating this day, but also in helping us in the documentation and in continuous remembrance of this day. And we want to sound it to you that at appropriate time, we are mobilizing a day to really have a bigger celebration. That celebration, we shall be bringing the pictures and the videos and the word of all that happened on the day. In following up today's launch, we shall be organizing it. We would have done it today, but we fell short of some of the information which we wanted. So we thought with the head of the press, the public will know our intention, which is well-intentioned, to gather more information, to remember our people. We are not running after anybody who participated in the killing, but we shall run after our own people to know who was killed, so that we remember them to carry forward the legacies of our people. We say, you conceal information, we reveal it. We are not going to accept this concealment. We shall be revealing it to the public. I say this for God and my country. Thank you.